the biggest change you can make is at a local level. And we do believe that good, quote unquote, government starts within, hence self-ownership.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I've got another new guest coming on. It's Kim Ruff. She's coming in from just outside of Phoenix, Arizona, and she's actually running for the Libertarian Party in the USSA, which I think there's some sort of election or something coming up. I actually don't even follow it or don't even know how it all works or anything. But I did want to have her on because she is an anarchist, and I always try to promote the anarchists who are running within the Libertarian Party. So I wanted to have her on. So, Kim, thanks for coming on. And the first question I have to ask you is, how did you become an anarchist?
Thank you so much for having me on, Jeff. I really appreciate it. To answer your question, the way that I became an anarchist was, originally I was a Goldwater Republican, and I left the GOP in 2005 because of the constant wars. And I worked, my first gig in the Libertarian Party was I worked as a campaign manager for a congressional candidate who is an anarchist. And as somebody who was a small government type person, working with him and spending time with him, we would do campaign events. And then afterward, we would debrief in parking lots or wherever about what happened and talk about philosophical issues. And I started out with certain premises. And in the course of talking to Nick Coons, my candidate, he systematically broke those down, explained to me where I was wrong and the flaw in my logic. And I recognized that if you truly want to be an ethical person, you need to eschew all instruments of force, and government is the greatest example of force that exists. And from that point on, I've been an anarchist.
That's great. How long ago was that?
Oh, goodness. 2009.
Okay, so about 10 years. And now, being an anarchist, you're going to be running for a political party. So it's kind of, this is always the kind of strange question. But I guess the main question is, why are you such a masochist? Because from what I've seen running for this thing, it looks like it's just, all this political stuff is just crazy and horrible. Why do you even want to get involved in this?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I joke about, I was previously married before Johnny, and I joke about leaving one unhealthy relationship to embark on a greater unhealthy relationship with the entire political party system. So I guess I am just a glutton for punishment. But more than anything, it really comes down to, if you want to get rid of government, you effectively have two possible options. One option is to wage a violent revolution. And given the monopoly of force that the government has and just how huge the military-industrial complex is, we don't stand much of a chance. Even if we were that irate, tireless minority that Samuel Adams talks about, we don't have the kind of weaponry necessary in order to win a violent revolution. And because we are of the mindset that we want a world that preserves and respects natural rights, and we don't believe in taking life, and we don't believe in enslavement and stealing, we have to cross a major ideological bridge in order to go from being pro-life, anti-murder, pro-life type anarchists into we should murder these people who are tormenting and torturing us. So there's that aspect of it, which is why I'm not there. I'm not comfortable with it. The second aspect is then you have to work in the system. And the system as it is, as fundamentally flawed and an instrument of force, is what it is. And in order to stem the tyranny, the best thing you can do without waging a violent revolution is try to either mitigate them increasing governmental controls or push it back. Basically do what they've done backwards and in heels, kind of like the Ginger Rogers to Fred Astaire. You have to systematically chip away at all of that legislation and all of those instruments of force and fraud in order to get ourselves to that noble goal of a truly free society. That's why I'm doing it. It's almost like sort of like a swan song before I just say, all right, arm up, let's do this.
Yeah, that you bring up the violent revolution aspect, and that's not going to work, especially where there's not enough of us, and we're not, and plus I also think like what we talk about, what we really believe, it's not about violently revolting so much as trying to wake other people up. Because really, if we can just wake up enough people, there does not need to be a shot fired. There doesn't need to be anything. It'll actually, if enough people understand what we know, government will just go away. Everyone will be like, oh, I don't pay taxes anymore. I realized what that was a while ago. And I know there's some risks involved, but I don't do it. And you got millions or tens of millions of people doing that. The government has no money. And of course, then if they really crack down, then who knows what might happen. But, I don't, sort of very, very, very last resort type stuff is the violent aspect. And I don't think we even need to get there. I think with the world today, with technology and with the internet, and I know they're trying to censor it so bad, but it's really hard to do. And we're getting the message out there that I think we really can, wake enough people up. It's just going to take time. And another aspect to this is, this being an anarchist show, we've had numerous talks. I've had numerous people on talking about should we even get involved in the political system. And of course, I've had Ron Paul on here, and he's the best example of how it kind of works to get involved in the political system because I haven't added them all up, but I ask everyone who comes on the show, and it's almost 500 people now, how you became an anarchist. And Ron Paul, I think, leads the way, and he did it through being involved in the political system. So he used it as a stage to get the message out there. I've also had Tim Moan on, who's the leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada, who I like a lot. He's a total anarcho-capitalist. He's not shy about it. He does not mince words. If anyone asks, he says, yes, I am an anarcho-capitalist. I want to get rid of government, but I'm trying to do it sort of from the inside if we can. And I think that makes sense too. And we are in a different time. I think everyone out there is searching for an answer right now. I think finally the statists, who are basically just brainwashed, are starting to realize this whole left-right thing isn't really working out. So people are looking for answers. So it might make some sense for us to be in the political process and try to get at least our message out that way. Do you expect, and I don't know because I don't follow it, do you expect that there might be some chance that some Libertarian Party people may get elected in the upcoming election? Or are you just looking at this as mostly just a way to get our message out there?
It's actually both. Everything you said, you're completely on point with, because you are right. So many people right now are yearning for those words because they feel that pain. They've seen people that have been harmed by these policies, by the societal push for more government to solve the problems of government. And they recognize that it's wrong, but they don't have the tools in their toolkit to put words to what it is and push back. And that's our duty, whether it's divorcing yourself completely from the system itself and engaging in an agorist solution or a free market solution or doing podcasts like you do, or even just opting out entirely of the American society and going to another country and then still trying to affect positive change by pushing that culture and that message. That is hugely instrumental, just as much as, if not possibly more than, what we do within the mechanism of the party structure or through the political process. It's a leviathan that we're attacking, and there's more than one way to attack it. So that's all very valuable. And people, when you talk to folks, they talk about their experience, and they can say, I see in my own life, in my little small sphere of influence, how these things have impacted me or impacted people that I love. And I recognize that something's wrong, but I don't know what to do about it. And that's where we can come in and say, okay, you're not alone. Like Plato's allegory of the cave, let me walk you out into the light so that you see what I see. And then together we will get to that promised land. So to go back to your original question on, is it this or is it that? It's absolutely both. I think that libertarians have the greatest potential to get elected on a down ticket local or state level. And that's really where you're affected most directly. And so my job as somebody who's running for the presidential ticket is to recognize the Sisyphean feat involved in running for office and use that platform and podium as an opportunity for education. Talk about why these things are wrong, and here's what you can do at home to affect positive change. And have you looked into this particular individual in your home state or in your city who's running for office and preaching the exact same message, trying to push that at a local level? Get involved, donate to a campaign, work for a campaign, do something, start something that's rather than looking to government to do charitable things for pennies on the dollar, do something else yourself. If these issues are important to you, and they are, do it yourself. If we took back that, if we stopped giving government the permission to just do, and we started giving ourselves permission to own ourselves and engage in our community in a direct, responsible way, that alone would erode the myth of the state. And then the rest of that would just fall to pieces. So yes, it's about education, but the local level is where they could actually get elected.
Cool. And, we're talking about you possibly becoming president of the Libertarian Party. But before you do that, of course, you're going to have to win that sort of thing. And I have to say, I've kind of paid a little bit of attention to it because many of my past guests on here have been, run for the Libertarian Party. And it's actually of all, you watch the conservatives or the Democrats or they're sort of whatever they call it when they're trying to choose who's going to be their one for the next election, and it's so lame. Like, they're just all so fake. It's just obviously fake and all that kind of stuff. But you go to the Libertarian Party, it's usually like the debate's really pretty good because you have a lot of very free-minded people. They're not always all anarchists, but a lot of them are, and so it's a pretty good debate. So, what's sort of the next steps here? When is it the Libertarian Party president chosen, and what are your expectations and hopes for winning that?
Okay, so the process by which we in the Libertarian Party select our candidates is that we do it at our national convention, which is slated for, I believe, either late May or early June in 2020, and it's to be hosted in Austin, Texas. So we have delegates from every single state affiliate come to represent their state affiliate in the wider convention. We talk about bylaws issues, we elect party leadership, we discuss platform changes if we want to make any, and other relevant business. But in addition to that, and probably the most pressing, is that we select who's going to be our presidential candidate. We select our presidential candidate, and then we select our vice presidential candidate separately. So the process that what we do is we have each delegate is apportioned a certain amount of tokens, and they use their tokens to say, this is the person that I want to see in the debate for the Libertarian Party. And we do the top 5 people. They have their debate. And then of those top 5, we start doing voting, where as we go through each system, we drop down the person who has the lowest yield until we get a majority vote for one particular candidate. That's how we select them. So, and then the vice president, same process, just separately. So even though I'm running as a slate, it's highly likely and entirely possible that John Phillips won't necessarily be married to me ultimately, or I won't even get selected, but he might. So, and we acknowledge that, and we're still going to continue to do what we're doing because it needs to be done.
That's great. I think a couple of past Anarchast guests are running, or said they're going to be running. I think Adam Kokesh is. I've had some personal issues with him in the last year that I won't get into because I'm not that petty. But also, I think John McAfee, who's a past guest of Anarchast, he's been really interesting lately. So if he's running, and Kokesh, who's a pretty good speaker, and you're running, this is going to be a very interesting kind of a debate, especially if McAfee's involved.
I can't wait for McAfee, because if he does it, he's going to be like Skyping in from a boat.
Because he's running
like,
from the
IRS.
He's threatening to take down the whole government.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, it's so interesting. It's like the O.J. Simpson car chase to some extent. You're just like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I don't quite know what to make of him. I've never met him in person. I've had him on the show a couple times. I might have to pass through the area where I think he is, which is in the Caribbean, in the next couple of weeks. So I might try to see if I can bump into him. But he's been doing some interesting things. So what's your sort of take? Like, what do you think? Like, have you ever done anything like this before? Or, so you're coming in, you're not very well known. I did not know a lot about you except through Johnny and his show. For people who don't know, the Johnny Rocket, I think, what do you call it, the radio blast off or something?
Blast off with Johnny Rocket, yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I know you. So you're not, as far as I know, not very well known. So what are your kind of hopes here for having some success against some of these other people?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, no, I've never done this before. The previous campaign that I ran was a strictly write-in campaign for state mine inspector here in Arizona, which is a very interesting position. We're the only state that has a state miner position. It's a statewide office and a weirdly partisan office, even though I'm not sure how you could apply your ideology on top of it, except for to say as libertarians, watch your step, don't fall in a mine hole, But because I was the only person who actually qualified for that position, I was enlisted by the Arizona Libertarian Party to run so that we had a full slate of candidates running for statewide office. But that was strictly write-in. I wasn't actively campaigning. I figured if I got into if I got through the primary onto the general ballot, then I would start something like "Government can kick rocks" or whatever is my slogan, and and run aggressively. But prior to that, mostly what I have done has been more intra-party politics, which is sitting on bylaws committees and working on platform planks and, building coalitions and alliances with people of similar value. I worked in the Libertarian Party Radical Caucus. I did that for about 2 years as the Arizona State Coordinator and then Secretary and Vice Chair, and sat on various committees and helped support down ticket candidates. So I've been more behind the scenes for a very long time. And that was really more just something I fell into. And then on top of that, I write. So I've had a lot of things published in various different periodicals. But as far as me stepping up this time, it's largely because I think everybody needs to step up. In the Libertarian Party, we have a very, very bad problem of basically sitting on our hands, complaining about the situation when it comes to candidates, and then begging somebody from one of the major parties to come rescue us from ourselves. I don't like that fact. We have wonderful, amazing, articulate individuals within the movement, not just the Libertarian Party, but the wider liberty movement, who are absolutely eminently qualified to be representatives and spokespeople for our belief system. So why not stand up and do it? I hope more people do run. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how everything shakes out. In terms of me gaining support, it's mostly because of the fact that, I'm genuinely a likable person. I'm authentic and honest, and I am a libertarian. So I don't misrepresent what we believe. And we have used our campaign as a mechanism to help people on a local and state level where we can affect the most positive change, rather than just trying to capture this glorious brass ring of the presidential seat so that we can maybe possibly, get elected to this ridiculous office in the first place.
Well, like I said, you're going to be up with some very interesting characters, and you have your own style of your own, which I think could really work. You're not like John McAfee, so all the people are like, "Oh, he's too crazy." Like, we don't want everyone to think we're all like him, that sort of a thing. So I could definitely see you having some success. So I wish you luck. So, when you're up there and you're talking, is there anything that you think differentiates you from the other people who are running right now, other than your style? Like, do you have any, for example, any potential
particular issues
topic
that I focus on?
Yeah, that sort of things. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, one of the things that I do focus on, and I know this might muddy the waters for some of my anarchist brethren, but I'll explain my rationale. Primarily what I focus on are only things that are within the actual scope of that office. So the president has very, very limited powers according to the Constitution. Of course, our current president and many pretty much since the inception of our country have run completely roughshod of those parameters and used it as a means of legislating and enforcing and determining the constitutionality of whatever the hell they want to do. So what I'm doing and what I'm proposing is to effectively apply that old mantra that we use in the liberty movement, which is, any legislation you use to penalize someone today will invariably be used against you tomorrow. And we see that, we had Obama expand executive control, just like everyone who preceded him. And then when Trump took power, all the Democrats are like, oh no, he has all this power. How did this happen? It's like, because you just said it was okay for your guy to do it. So I focus only on what we actually are allowed to do technically. And I only talk about things that are relevant to that position. So even though I might have an opinion on abortion, it doesn't matter if I'm running for president, because there's not anything the president can do about it aside from maybe potentially appointing somebody to the Supreme Court who's either an activist judge or an original intentist. I talk about war and international relations and foreign policy because that's always been my area of interest and expertise, and because that is the biggest threat to our safety and security as people. The fact that we just this week pulled another Gulf of Tonkin incident and said that, Iran bombed one of our tankers. I mean, anything they'll do, anything they can do to keep the perpetual war machine in motion. And our sons and daughters and husbands and wives and good friends who are in the military are going to die. And for what purpose? For what point? So that we can have global supremacy? We're aggressors. This nation, we are aggressors on the international stage. We're not the good guys here. And you can whip out every single American flag you want to and invoke the Constitution or get a gold eagle and say, look at us. But we're not anything like what we were founded upon. Not even close. So that's what I try to focus on. And I think that's what differentiates me. I like what my other competition has to say. they're on the money about what makes a libertarian and what our philosophy is. It's just they have a different approach as to what they would do where they'd actually get elected.
Yeah, don't know if I even want to get into this whole war thing, but I totally said that. I said that was going to happen. I have a newsletter, The Dollar Vigilante, and I said about a month ago, I said the next thing that will happen is a false flag attack on probably a cargo ship in that strait there, and it'll be blamed on Iran. And I even said, I'm not. This isn't even conjecture. This isn't even like a guess. This is what they do. This will happen next. This is what they've been doing for 100 years. And
you don't even need to sit there and say, like, was 9/11 an inside job or not? You have plenty of things that have come to light and are substantiated without us going down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole that show that our government will create or utilize any tragedy in order to justify consolidating federal control and keeping the military-industrial complex fat and happy. And this is what they do. So a girlfriend of mine said this, and it was so on point. She said that libertarians are very much like the Cassandras of the political movement, which is to say we see the future because we know what the past is. And we are crying out to people, do you not see how they're doing this to you? Do you not see the great lie that's being spread before you? And people don't listen. And it's so maddening because it would be funny, it would be absurd if it didn't directly impact all of our lives, if it didn't come at such an incredible cost. And that's the insanity of it. If I had my druthers, I would be on a farm right now planting strawberries or something. I would not be doing this. This was never what I wanted to do. But if we're going to have people keep coming after us and penalizing us for trying to do what we want to do that harms no one, then I'm going to get back up and fight. So if you want to get rid of me, get rid of tyranny.
Yeah, totally. So very interesting. So I'll be looking forward to seeing you getting involved here with a bunch of crazy characters. and I don't know if you know or heard, but I've heard from many people who've been involved with the Libertarian Party that it gets really, really dirty and crazy. And so good luck.
Thank you.
And I hope you don't get too dragged down into the swamp of it all. And so how can people find out more information on you if they want to support you in some way? How can they do that?
They can find out more about me on my website, which is Ruff, F as in Frank, like dog barking, Phillips, 2020.com. So that's ruffphillips2020.com. Or you can find us on Facebook at Kim Ruff /John Phillips for POTUS and VPOTUS in 2020. We also have Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest and Snapchat and every possible social media platform you can think of. We're probably there, and we're probably yelling about things.
That's great. And, one thing I haven't mentioned that I should mention again is, a lot of anarchists will say we shouldn't get involved in the political system and all that kind of stuff. And we can't even if we do, we can't possibly win. I think we can, actually. I think the biggest problem out there is that too many people think we can't, and too many people don't do anything.
I agree.
There's now millions of us anarchists, like real anarchists, people who understand what we're talking about, not kids in black balaclavas breaking Starbucks windows, thinking it's edgy or something. But there's literally millions of us now. If every single person got super involved in whatever it is, and it doesn't always have to be the political system, but if all those people got out there and started doing stuff, we could totally overwhelm the system already. Because we're right. We have the right principles. Once people actually hear about it, and if everyone's out there doing it, and they're like, "Holy cow! What does anarchist running for a party over here? There's an anarchist over there." They look into it. Hey, that doesn't sound. That's not what they said on TV. Anarchy was. It actually sounds pretty good. Like you own yourself. You're not a slave. But that is the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest thing holding most of us back and holding us back is is that most people think we can't change anything. And if, I've had so many people on this show, Joe B. Weeks, for example, who was involved with some other people who were the first people who were out there petitioning to get marijuana or cannabis decriminalized in Colorado years ago, which ended up starting a worldwide, essentially revolution, to the point where last week in Las Vegas, I'm going into a nice little shop and buying some cannabis, and it's all so nice once it's all decriminalized, right? And, there's so many ways to change the world, but the biggest thing, in my opinion, is so many people think they can't, and that's what they want. One person can change the entire world, and if there's millions of us and we're all trying to change the world in the way that we'd like to see it, which is what all the statists have been doing now for centuries, if we go out there and we try to change the world, I think we can, but I think that's the biggest problem, is most people can't. So I have to give you credit for at least trying, because that's what it takes. That's what it takes, is at least, giving it a shot, going out and doing something. If you're not going to do anything, nothing's going to change.
I completely agree with you. That's actually something that I say a lot to people, because like I said, the biggest change you can make is at a local level. And we do believe that good, quote unquote, government starts within, hence self-ownership. So a lot of people look at the global situation and they get overwhelmed by it, the sheer volume of the fight before them. But if they focus their energy on one issue or one thing in their area, just within their little sphere of influence, and they normalized anarchy, so they were that friendly, wonderful, help you out in case you need some anarchist next door. If we normalize this concept and we just made these little pockets of good in our area, given how many of us there are, those pockets would overlap. We could create a huge sociocultural sea change where people start demanding that government shrink and go away and take control of their lives. It really is one of those things where you can inspire people, you can normalize it, you can show that we are just like everybody else. We're not some sort of, like you said, we're not part of the Black Hand Society, and we're not going around assassinating presidents. Like, we just want to be left alone, and we want to take care of ours and our neighborhood. And let us do that. We're so much better and so much more effective than turning to a bureaucrat to make these decisions for us.
Yeah, and like I said, so many people are so lost right now and confused, and that's actually good, because if you look at the polls of the amount of people who believe, they have confidence in Congress, it's like less than 10%. So your average person out there is like, holy cow, I have no faith in this thing. This thing's a disaster in so many ways. But the one thing that they don't know is you don't have to have a government. You don't have to have this big, giant government. They don't know that because they've been brainwashed their entire lives. That's the whole point of government. And the meaning of government, it's a Latin word, govern, to control, meant mind. It's mind control. It's keeping people thinking that they need this thing. This is what a sociopathic sort of a thing always does. It wants you to think you need it. And it's constantly using propaganda and lies, and everything on television programming is, oh, the police saved someone, the president just saved the day. That's all propaganda. And you go to the sports events, got to bring up the big flag and, oh, thank the troops for going and killing people for no reason. But it's all just brainwashing. And if we can get through to those people who are so lost and so confused, and even look at the last selection, I don't even call it election. I think it's pretty much decided at that point, once you get to that point. But what you look at the last one, more than 50% of people who could vote didn't vote. And they called that the most, they say this all the time, but the most important election of our lifetime. And a lot of people actually did believe that. So many people are it can't be Trump or it can't be Hillary. Like, they really got a lot of people thinking this is so important. Still, more than half the people in the U.S. didn't even go out and bother to vote. So that meant anarchy won. It won, but people just don't realize it yet. And if enough people get out there and keep going, we can totally help them realize it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most amazing things. And I was just talking to Johnny about this last night, which is when people talk about how the third party spoils elections. I mean, statistically, that doesn't even bear out. One of the great examples that people throw in my face whenever I've done, signature gathering or whatever, is Ross Perot. They say, well, if Ross Perot hadn't have run, and he wasn't even running as a libertarian, but if he hadn't have run, then Clinton wouldn't have gotten elected. And I'm like, statistically speaking, he pretty evenly siphoned off votes from both the quote unquote red and the blue. Like, that doesn't bear out. But more than that, you are assuming that every single person who cast a vote was eligible to vote. And they weren't. 2016 is an excellent example. What is it? Like 46% of eligible voters just didn't vote. So, and then, we get 4% of those that did. And they're like, look, you ruined everything. Like, no, we didn't. We didn't ruin everything.
No, you ruined everything. You guys, my response to that, if I was in your position and someone said, oh, you're just going to, cause a problem, so you're going to make the Republicans lose, I'd be like, good. They both need to lose. They're both the
Absolutely.
same. Haven't you wake up? There's no difference between Trump, Obama, Clinton, Bush. Where's the difference? There's zero difference. It's a mind control game. They both deserve to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most people do the voting for the quote unquote lesser of two evils.
Right.
They look at it as like there's four possible options: the candidate you like, the candidate A you like, candidate B you like, candidate A who's not B, or candidate B who's not A. Like those are the four possible options in their mind. Most people are just voting for candidate A because they really, really, really don't want candidate B. Well, just don't vote for either of them. Vote for the one you actually believe in.
Yeah. So,
Excuse me. I get choked up about this stuff.
Yeah, I get a little carried away sometimes too. But yeah, so we should leave it at that. Is there anything that we didn't mention you wanted to mention? I think you gave us your website. We'll have that down below.
No, I'm sorry. I'm so good.
I'll let you go then, so you got a little bit of a cough attack going on there. So yeah, if you like I said, get out there and change whatever. Like there's going to be some comments below. I know there's going to be, oh Jeff, you're not an anarchist. How could you be even talking about getting involved in the political system? It's like I want to destroy the political system from the inside. There's nothing wrong with that. But really, it's about getting out there and just doing something. And so many people don't. And so many people don't think you can. You can. And once you realize that, this world will change. And one of the ways you can help is just to share this video. Share, like, subscribe down below. So many people don't even do that. We get, 5 or 10,000 views. It used to be like 20 or 30 or 40, but we're shadow banned now. And it'd be like 100 likes. And it's like, well, if you like it, just click like. It helps us out. And now, if you're not doing that, think about why you're not doing that. Is there some sort of psychological reason? Are you like, oh, I don't want to help him out for some reason or something? Think about that. Work on yourself, but just hit that like button, hit that share button. It's like we're doing our best out here. I'm not making money making these videos. In fact, I'm losing money making every single video, but I do it out of passion. Of course, I can promote things like Anarchapulco and all that. But really just do something. Just hit the like button or hit the dislike button. I don't care, but just do something. That's what it takes to change the world, is just getting off your ass. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
Anarchapulco is so hype, I'm trying to tell ya. This the event of the year and best vacation ever. Ron Potter, Jeffrey Tucker, just to name a few. Get your tickets, you don't want to miss it. You should roll through. Talking politics to health and self-improvement to invest in. So many things, not one thing. Learn how to live life unchained, yeah. 4 days vibing on the beach, time to connect. All about growth, way more than a conference. This is Anarchapulco, yeah. Let's go.
You ain't seen nothing yet.